To all of you. Thank you for joining us for today's program, Fast Court's work. The discussion will revolve around the Supreme Court's recent rejection of a proposal to. The discussion will revolve around the Supreme Court's proposal in cases against criminal MPs. We have very distinguished speakers. Mr. Bajayant Panda, Member of Parliament, Lok Sabha, Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, Commissioner of India, and Mr. Manish Chibbar, Senior. Before I ask Dr. Qureshi, please request to turn your phones on silent.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, friends. Very timely. I don't know because the judgment came. In any case, I'll just the concern has been actually very old. The Association of People Act itself to lose your seat. That is basically concern, but the issue got but there also was an issue that while every citizen on conviction was taken plain, an MP or an MLA who goes in appeal, years they were this was kept in suspension, which discriminatory in the Constitution. A couple of years ago, made that principle of equality. You can't have people. Again, the concern have has got increasingly of the fact we have seen the evolution of the. Initially, there were hardly any problems because it was one part. As it became competitive, muscle power and money. Both the muscle men and money men realize money. I don't the. I know a person who used in birth for. And the same police which was running after to protection. So, but what to do with them? The fact is that innocent till, but the judicial system works 20, 30 years and nothing happens. Although for which I have not found a if that was the principle. We have in Indian jails, we have 4 lakh prisoners in Indian jails. Nearly 60,000. If they are under trial, they have not been convicted. Innocent, at least they are presumed innocent. They are in jail. They have taken away the fundamental right of liberty, movement, freedom of occupation. Still they are innocent. So to say the MP really convicted, they are innocent. Why have you? As recently as 2 or 3 years, saying there is a case pending against him. Till today, the case is right. He is innocent, but he was removed institution was by Supreme. And in this television equal for civil service, even for a chaprasi. Is it not a discrimination of fundamental servant? Even the slightest in and I have heard what is innocent. You have taken away his right to have. After you allowed him of power, and the power which he enjoys, how can you forget with money power that airline minister in such cases, three minister in a rape. Is there innocent? Them also 20 years what is possible? The government law pending against them. How can we use a separate question? Why? The election petition will be class of the correct inefficient and non-performing. It has not been checked. As a separate for checking. They were supposed to settle this month. Only year. The courts have decided 5 years, 6 years. Now, by not deciding now this guy who somebody question and finally if he's found guilty, he would have been allowed to continue. Been a very law. Suppose legal all help. But why? Even after term is already over for 5 years. Why? Because there were 2 punishments. Qualified for 6 years. Possible punishment. Why the flaw? Therefore, it has been an option of fast tracking, which will obtain for a law. What's happening? But let's say, this judiciary has never transformed into the system. criminal. Otherwise, they were not to candidate. Second is debate people. There could be false proposal. Is already is a pending. Entire defense that you talking of, talking of rape. Safeguard we have proposed. The case instead of making as a change suggested. Mind, there is judicial strongly Supreme Court on the pending case against long or even, but what yes, so that she doesn't process, the rock bottom. And when we therefore the peers, which is when you realize that in you if the bureaucracy knows all because because self of a system is also important. Therefore, I think the initiative excuses presumption of innocence in law. You can, if it does, you service democracy in world. India, when somebody gets, he says, which are you feel embarrassed. $184 in 2000. Man, he's a man. Except that I missed, but I longer than I was supposed to. To come for some for her a little bit of also very I mean, Mr. Cleanest. Politicians I want to embarrass him for perception. I kind of which he gets from the people. He is legal correspondent. He works in the judiciary. We have this clear roadmap showing we must thank
Yeah. So I know I'm going to talk. So I'm going to Australian view. Who put in the first covered the my let's say a little or why can't we internet law And you know what the so shouldn't we get this? There's no problem in stack code. And deploy
qualified criminal just track code rule. So this is 2000. So speed up to 50 or any crores of rupees from the which had allotted. Yes. Track courts funding cut off the central government. When they said we will stop it. The states who have done it because they are popular, have done it because a very good record. I can governments which have contained large numbers, Maharashtra, I can experience my experience. There's been there was a first demand from family, from neighbors, please ensure to the have a fast track court. In Odisha, if you look at in years, I think 4 cases of crimes, murder, rape, have been adjudicated time of 6 months to 1 year. Whereas in the past, people would get away for years and decades. Does it have the kind of that we are hoping for? It's too early to say. We have a few cases now where you know happening. If you go to the fast track, it is getting adjudicated in 6-8 months. Many more of these fast track courts to hopefully find out that have that tremendously virtuous cycle throughout the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Before I throw it over to the House, just a quick comment and exactly rejoin that. Talked about the situation. Everything should be quick and it should be decided. That is an idea which is almost impossible to achieve. For the next 265, as the Chief Justice of the Court himself said. And so say you have one, and first you say you should have more judges. Then you say it is very difficult to find good judges. That actually, in a way, the said. But just as a thought in my mind, maybe what you were mentioning from Chandigarh is an old experience. Ever since we have introduced the law schools, I think the number of good lawyers who are coming out of these schools has gone up. The politicians, these guys will end up getting 80%, not 50%. Because there was a time when if somebody could not get a job, could not get an admission in MA because he had very poor. The easiest thing was for him to do law.
Second easiest was politics.
So he will join law, and then after law he doesn't even have to admit that he is unemployed because he is a lawyer. Now lawyer has realized that at least he was able to cover up his nalayaki by not getting proper admission, so he goes for law, and he covers up for his unemployment by saying that he is a lawyer. So that should have changed now. I have a feeling so many good schools, because that is the choice from day one. It's not your last resort that after you get admission, these guys are right from school. The first preference, therefore they are bound to be good. But you said that the Supreme Court logic, you can't have two types of cases, but probably you can, in the sense that after all, rape law, for rape cases, fast track courts were created. That means the concept of a separate category has been established. Or as I said, election petition established in law that they should be fast tracked. Whether it is being done or not done, even rape cases may not be done in fast track, but the concept has been established. And I think Mr. Panda has given a very clinching evidence that when you created fast track courts for economic offences, in 10 years it was a very nice figure that 84% disposal. So that therefore proves the case for fast track cases. Then, and also Mr. Panda said, perfect is the enemy of the good. Your ideal solution that every case should be decided in time, of course, is fantastic if it can happen. And it is very unlikely. I liked Mr. Panda's statement that adjudication against criminal politicians should be a national priority. Why? While saying that there can be separate categories, why I think this is the most priority category, because here is the question of a lawmaker who has become a lawbreaker. He is very fundamental to our democracy. This is a category that does require a special focus to cleanse our politics. Because a dishonest politician, the way it begins with money and criminal, they are polluting the entire democratic system. Therefore, taking this priority is a very valid thing. One point which I had forgotten and said I'll remember in due course. The point I was trying to make, that normal defense of politicians is that politically motivated cases are there, and small cases he abused somebody. And as I said, that we are leaving them out of 184. This also creates a bad impression in public mind that 1/3 of our MPs are criminals. It should not be looked at that way. Actually, the category which we have been emphasizing, rape, dacoity, murder, kidnapping, there are only 35 cases. These are the guys whose qualification we are talking about. And also when we say fast track, or when you use the word fast track, you send them to jail. No. Either send them to jail or acquit them so that they get a clean sheet. At the moment, what is happening is there is a vested interest. If there is a criminal politician who knows that he will finally be convicted, he will try and prolong the cases, and it is very easy. The judges are scared of the lawyers, and lawyers will come on any excuse, they'll keep on getting data again. Converse is also true. When a politician knows that he has not committed an offense and he is likely to be acquitted, the government in power can also ensure that the case keeps hanging on his head. I know one or two cases which I can tell you privately because not on the media, but there are certain cases where the government will ensure that the case doesn't get decided, so that the guy is in jail, or the sword of uncertainty is hanging over him, and the benefit, they play a lot of politics. The one point which I've been working on, but I got some idea from Mr. Panda and many others can develop, to how can we move with the ideal solution that we have adequate judges. Obviously, the principle of judges, the population is well known. The population of India has gone up 3.5 times since 1947, but I don't think the number of Supreme Court judges has gone up 3.5 times, or High Court judges. It should be totally like our dearness allowance of government employees. It is almost mathematical. You cross that line, DA comes in. So why can't it be? Now, funds. Why should we not find funds? And the point which he made that quick disposal will actually add 2% to the GDP. Mr. Panda, I would like to have more detail. This is a fantastic point. The point which I am coming to is that the court fees that we have, 5 rupees, 10 rupees or whatever, I don't know, I'm trying to get the details. From 10 rupee, try to make it 11 rupee, there will be a national hue and cry. But the same, because the poor man will be denied the opportunity of a legal recourse. But the same poor man, when the case lasts for 20 years and he'll be giving 2 lakh or 5 lakh to the lawyer for 20 years, that look at the cost. It's penny wise, pound for leg. If it is quick, so I would say that, for instance, I have one example. I have a Delhi University when I was a student in 1964, which is 100 years ago, 15 rupees. Today also it is 15 rupees. The moment somebody says, no, it should be made 18 rupees, there is agitation. Well, this kind of nonsense happens all the time. So in the process, we are happy to pay the lawyer for 20 years, but we will not increase the court fee from 5 rupees to 50. I say make it 5 rupees to 5,000. But at least he will be getting justice in 6 months. So I think this is an idea which needs to be considered. And finally, when Mr. Panda says, okay, leaving it to the conscience is not easy, it is true, but one argument which they give is that the winnability. They have to put up a candidate desperate, they must win the election. For that, they have to put up a candidate who will win them that seat. And the criminals have bigger chances of winning. My submission is that you haven't tried the other alternative. If a party says that I will not give a ticket to a single criminal candidate, for all you know, the public support will come to you. Okay, look, this is a clean party, we will make you win. So you haven't tried that, so you are taking the shortcut. एक शेर के सामने किसी ने शेर खड़ा किया तो आपको बबर शेर खड़ा करना पड़ता है. शेर बबर शेर छोड़िए, यहाँ तो भेड़िए खड़े कर देते हैं हम. Now this needs to change. With these comments, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is yours.
If I could just respond to a couple of things. Yesterday I went back to Justice Ministry, which is part of the Law Ministry, and I just wanted to ask them 2 questions. Number one, obviously the data that which is now in the public domain, courtesy the Lok Sabha questions. I asked them, have you ever analyzed the performance of regular courts vis-a-vis the fast-track courts? And they have data which they have shared with the Finance Commission. In at least 3 states, Haryana, Delhi and Punjab, the performance of the regular courts is better than the fast-track courts. So that settles my this thing. And when we talk about infrastructure, when I say that obviously it's very good to say that we are not living in an ideal world. We cannot have everything that we want. So, but till 2 years ago, whenever there's this system that state chief ministers and the finance ministers, they come to the planning, starting from what their likely demand could be, which was never forthcoming, to the thinking in the Justice Ministry that okay, let's give them 1,300 crores and let's spread it across states. So when you are not going to a single paisa for your judicial infrastructure, going to. And lastly, when we talk about these very good national law schools and the private, so I see some students also here. My experience in law schools, I'm sure it will change over time, that most of law school students, especially among 30 in their class, they prefer to go to law firms, see the inside of a courtroom for the rest of their life. So where are good judges from? So that my origin, that you will have to find your judges, people, and they are not good enough. So either you or you bring up standards.
Yes, ladies.
It is very, very tragic. Take for all the mess going on. For example, in case 90% of the problems in India and incompetent bureaucrats. For example, there are 6 IS officers on board. Yes, sir, I am also coming to that,
Yeah.
So all the related to electricity, in courts, electricity billing, you have to go to getting 3 years.
That is a topic
Sir,
which will require 3 days.
Sir, I am same thing,
Please come.
90% of the sir, of the issues are because of you and you are involved. For example, or there is a water dispute. For example, us just get in. You can say in 12 years. The issue is that the people who are say responsible for ministry. They are not doing their job properly.
अब तो आ जाओ भैया टॉपिक पे.
Sir, most important thing is that the which are supposed to be fastest, the most corrupt. और मैंने जो है 97 में के चेयरमैन को डिसमिस कराया. मैंने पूरा उनका पॉलिटिशियंस को भेजा, पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को जॉब प्रॉपरली एंड ही वाज डिसमिस्ड. चीज ये है कि आप हमारे लोगों की सोसाइटी के अंदर कि हम दिस इज ऑल्सो प्रॉब्लम. अब ये का केस ने जैसे बात उठाई है कि हमारे ऑफिसर कर लेते हैं बजाय उनको काउंसलिंग करने के. ऑल्सो नॉट वर्किंग और दीज बाय IPS ऑफिसर्स. व्हाई दे आर नॉट? You don't file so many bogus cases.
Manish, you take it. We'll take some questions first. Yes, please.
Madhurendra Jha, I'm an advocate. Was that on the fast track is that the election commission is empowered to set certain cases. Why can't by a simple amendment to the with matter in effect becomes the fast track court, the 1 year long procedure laid out and a single authority. Then you don't have to go to the state about infrastructure and other things, and you can do it very fast.
Election commissioners they are arbitrators, all right, because only otherwise we don't have the competence to go into a case, but that does require
I'm Anup Bose. I'm a senior special advisor to Tata Consultancy Services, which is in fact a great task of bringing about. Two very short questions. One is create the engine and the bogies of justice have to move fast. If you train, you have a track on which the Rajdhani, not like Japan, but the bullet train reaches the station on time. You see, it's not the fast track alone. You may create as many fast tracks as you want, but the engine, the bogies have to run fast on that track in order to achieve the objectives. The second thing is, of course, this follows from a comment to American George's book, Cochrane, who said in a society which is governed by rule of law and tolerance, many times evils will crop up, but give them a little time, and they usually breed their own cure. But in a country like ours, how much time are we really willing to give them in order to see that the system breeds its own cure? Because the pension for is not enough. You see, we have to create an atmosphere where, like a self-curing system. You see, do we have faith in that, or do we just want to fast-track everything? And sometimes haste makes waste, you see.
Okay. Yeah. Inko.
Yeah, hello everyone. Myself, Runjita. I'm an advocate by profession. And hearing all the learned speakers, I think no one disagrees to the fact that the fast-track courts are not needed. But what is the question is the feasibility of being the existence of the feasibility. Like what Mr. Cheever has pointed out, like with respect to the judiciary, the people who would be adjudicating the whatever disputes come to the fast track is a question which we have to look upon. I believe it's about the restructuring of the judiciary, which is important, who comes, because like in my little experience, what I've seen, like in all the whatever is the judicial forums, quasi-forums, like who are not generally manned by the regular judges. I'm not here like passing any judgment, but out of my experience what I can see, a lot of time they cannot construe the facts properly because they are not aware of the law. So that thing comes up. And a lot of times what happens is like the judgments which they pass have a lot of loopholes. And finally what happens, so like, okay, someone gets affected. Whether that person who gets affected goes in appeal or not is a different matter altogether. But what happens finally? What are we giving as a country through the judiciary system or through those quasi-judicial forums? Like the same thing will happen, I think, if we just increase the number of fast-track courts without thinking about who are manning those fast-track courts. So what I think, because when I was a student, I passed out from the Delhi University. Like 6 years back, that time we did not have the P of 6P commission. Like that time, everyone used to think, okay, after law, what to do next? And the university think, okay, no one is agreed to go for judiciary. Because of what? Because the pay scale is not like, very tempting compared to what we get in law firms. Like presently, I'm working with a law firm, even I wanted to go for judiciary because I haven't come from a bureaucratic background. My father used to be like IAS officer, but then still I'm with a law firm. Just because of the, the things around, how the things function. I think it should be more tempting for the students to think about, okay, when we should go for judiciary so that you can attract better crowds. So this is, I think we should be more concerned about.
Yes, at the back, please.
My name is Sharad Kumar. I'm a trustee of National Network of India. We've done some work in this area. I'm a little confused about a direction which Supreme Court had issued some time back, and it's likely to come up for review in September, saying that all such cases against politicians should be settled in 1 year's time, and if they cannot be settled in 1 year's time, permission should be taken from High Court. This seems to be in contradiction with the latest things. Now we're a little confused. The second thing which I wanted to ask is, there is an NGO in Lucknow which put various RTI applications of what is the progress in this matter. He's drawn a blank every time a RTI takes 1 month to get a reply. He's got a reply saying from Election Commission that we have no lists. Now, I don't understand, because I thought all nominations are online. And in any case, Election Commission should have a complete list of people who are elected. And
Who said that they don't have any list?
He
Election
said,
Commission.
this gentleman, I just read the report, who filed this RTI application with the Election Commission, they said we do not have any lists, which I thought was very improper, because nomination paper, it's very easy to see. As you rightly pointed out, it's not 1/3, it's 30 to 35 people really who are in for serious crimes. So I don't understand, if there is a direction on one hand, the Supreme Court says that we will review this, put up this after 6 months, which is happening in September. And against that, there is a thing that we cannot do it. I'm sorry, I'd like to know if anyone can throw any light on this.
Give 1 second. The lady in front. After you.
Shall we respond to some of these questions?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Yeah,
Right?
because
Because most of them were, I thought, were comments rather than.
we don't have the memory that you have now.
No, you have the pen and paper in front of you. Anyway.
Yeah.
Just one specific question to Mr. Panda. Very good suggestion about establishing fast-track courts for 2 specific things, and also the budget towards it, which you've indicated. But what's happening beyond that? Is there something which you've initiated towards it, and are we going to do something about it? Because I've attended a lot of such conferences where there are interesting debates and discussions. But what is the takeaway from that particular conference? I think this one point can be considered and dwelled upon.
Let me answer that. The idea of fast-track courts was first actually mooted to me by one of our better-known economists, Professor Abhijit Banerjee at MIT. whose book called Poor Economics made quite a bit of splash about engineering systems of getting greater delivery of governmental services and benefits to people. Now, when I say 32,000 crores is the annual budget, it's not only for adjudicating the cases of these 35 MPs who have, let's be clear about this. Of all the MPs that have criminal cases, if you take out the criminal cases for protests and dharnas, then you're left with maybe about 35, 40. I don't have the correct number. In the last parliament, it was 76 that had serious cases. This parliament has actually gone down. So that moral effect is happening. Parties are beginning to realize that because of anti-corruption movement and other issues, more urban and middle-class people turning out to vote. That is a long-term effect that's happening. But it's not, this 32,000 crores budget is not just for these 35 MPs and cases against women. My principle was elected officials are MPs, MLAs, Zilla Parishads, and Sarpanches. These are elected, and also the PS members, Panchayat Samiti members. These are elected officials throughout the country, and they run into several tens of thousands of people. They all have the ability to affect large numbers of citizens' lives. MPs can impact millions of people's lives by compromising legislation. MLAs can do it for a slightly lower number, but even sarpanches can affect thousands of people's lives by corruption and things like that. So my budget was based on fast-track courts in every district to take care of criminal cases against every elected official from the village right up to parliament, and criminal cases against heinous crimes against women. So you had these 5 fast-track courts which were set up in Delhi after the Nirbhaya case. That was a knee-jerk reaction. The original thinking of the fast-track courts was that you have 5 in every district, and they didn't specify which types of cases, but I think it will have a huge societal benefit if you could actually adjudicate heinous crimes against women quickly and criminal cases against elected officials quickly. So I have been championing this cause for about 4 or 5 years now. I've written to the Law Commission with specific suggestions. I've gone to the Election Commission last year with certain specific suggestions. I've written to the Prime Minister, I've written to opposition leaders, and I'm obviously not getting much resonance inside Parliament. So I'm trying to get resonance outside Parliament. I keep on reiterating the fact that this is not a very popular measure among politicians. Lot of empathy and sympathy, but the point is there is a bit of buck passing because of that heated environment last year when this thing, the ordinance was pulled back from Parliament to overturn the Supreme Court judgment that convicted MPs must go out. And just a little sidetrack, I don't believe that formation of charge sheet is enough, because that goes to first principles that due process has not been applied. Due process is when you have a conviction. So conviction doesn't have to be at the Supreme Court level. So all of these entities are very sympathetic, but it comes down to the commitment to allocate money. So obviously, if you decide to make it even narrower, these are just 2 small areas of adjudication, which is going to lead to 32,000 crores extra per annum apart from initial costs. So that's why that buck passing is going on, because it takes immense political will for the government to say we will allocate 32,000 crores extra per annum.
Nick, this calculation is based on one court and a fast-track court in every district, irrespective of what they will hear.
No, not one. It's a bit more than one. I'll come back and give you the numbers. Right. But I have a small research team, and we did crunch some numbers. We took the salaries of judges as it exists for these courts, and the ratio that exists is that if you have one judge and the cost of that one judge salary is 100, then the establishment cost is, I think, 5 times of that or something like that. There are some norms that have been derived from. It's not a very thorough study. It's a quick back of the envelope study, but it is back. We can back it up.
While you look at these figures, may I suggest that you also see the possibility of isolating the panchayat cases and other legislation, because lawmakers is a category. Otherwise, lakhs of panchayat, that may create a problem. But lawmakers have to be protected.
I was trying to reach for as much of what Mr. Chibber was saying to push it as far as possible.
Yeah, if I can just respond to what Mr. Singh, that only reinforces what I was saying, that most of the people are not bothered by what happens to or what happens to the cases against politicians. He is bothered about his case. Tribunalization of justice delivery system in this country has been going on for the last so many years now. You have all sorts of tribunals. And they were supposed to be fast-track courts. He will bear me out. They were supposed to take away the cases out of regular cases and deal with those cases on swiftly. But that was not happening. 2 days ago, I had a meeting with a member of the National Consumer Commission, former Home Secretary of Punjab, B.C. Gupta, and he was telling me, they have had some data crunching also at their end. Some of the cases that are pending disposal before the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Forum or Commission are 10 years old. So this is the fast-track justice delivery we are talking about. And it was supposed to be a fast-track tribunal. Same is true of every other commission, every other tribunal that you have. Somebody asked about, Mr. Kumar, I think, asked about, the Prime Minister's, this Supreme Court judgment where they have said that we leave it to the Prime Minister and the Chief Ministers to ensure that, tainted people or people who have serious criminal cases going on against them, they are kept out of their cabinets. Thankfully, after I read that judgment, I was very, very grateful to the Supreme Court because it's so very easy to be part of the mob. We would like every individual who's involved in a heinous crime to be hanged at the India Gate tomorrow after a summary trial, and in many cases without a trial. But thankfully, the Supreme Court has given this judgment, and I'm sure, when time comes, they will go strictly by rule of law. That is why they are there, the my lords. We don't expect them to be, behave in a churlish manner like most people do. That is why I say you don't need to separate the cases of politicians from other cases. Simply ensure, and I don't say do it in the next 4 years, 5 years. It will take some time. Obviously, we cannot compare ourselves to the West. They are small countries. If in England they have better systems, it is because they are a small nation, unlike us. So this will take some time, but finally, I am sure with the kind of money that is being pumped in, it is something that is achievable.
Yeah, it will take longer than 4 years, maybe 265 years.
But
your question. Please tell us who the question is addressed to.
My question is hardly a question, it's more of an observation to all the three of the panelists. And I'm addressing three panelists because I know you all three at the point of time happen to be opinion makers. You've discussed a lot and very useful points have come and they're all relevant, all valid. I don't think it's like it has tried to make out that it's not feasible. It is feasible. You have to strategize it. You may possibly have to put it on a 20 years plan or something, because as it is, even if you want to recruit 6,000 judges, as it was said today, it will take you 3 years to do that, recruitment, appointment, reorientation, finding them the courts to sit and all that. So it's a time-bound program. Mm-hmm. But I think there's no harm in giving it a trial, because you would have made a beginning at least. Now, my point to make here before you all is, one point, adjournments came mentioned but not discussed as such. I have had a bit of, not very long, but very bit of experience in the law courts. I'm a retired IPS officer anyway. I think what has stigmatized the judicial system, one of the things is the adjournment, which has been cinematized also by, say, tarikh pe tarikh pe tarikh, it has become a common saying now. That's not being addressed to my mind, and I would like you people to put your weight behind this. Some kind of regulation. I know adjournments are essential at times, but some kind of regulation of adjournment, because there are some uncontrolled adjournments I find in cases, but deliberately both lawyers are happy on the adjournment. and the judge is also happy on adjournment. It suits all of them from various points of view. I don't want to go into that.
Good.
But some kind of regulation, what I am suggesting is that maybe it is related to the pendency of a case. Like after a year, a case which is a year long pending, now adjournment will have to be with a speaking order, or only one adjournment or two adjournment per month are permissible. Something like some kind of regulation, I think, is more likely to put the courts on track, if not on fast track. Thank you.
Microphone.
Why do we use different reference points for putting up statistics? You said 84% of disposal. Sounds like a good number. Then you said in Odisha, it was 4 cases which were actually disposed of in the last 6 months to 1 year, which to me, I don't know if I'm judging it wrongly, but then which to me, it feels like it's much less in numbers. When it comes to real numbers, it is hardly anything. I mean, 4 cases, I don't know how many cases are in subordinate courts exactly. Why different reference points? One would be this. And the other would be for researchers like us. We do research on police reforms, and at times we bother the investigative agencies to give us data through RTI and through other methods also, which are not very fruitful, but then RTI data would have been fruitful. But then most of the time, in response, what we get is like no records available. Then how do you make out the situation that what actually is the system? Because, it starts from the investigative agencies and then it goes to the courts. So, any light thrown on
Quickly
this?
respond to both. Yeah, let me respond. I'll respond to both of these questions. You made a very valid point about the limited number of adjournments, and I had referred to that in my talk. The problem is the criminal code does actually say that ideally you should have no more than 3 adjournments, right? But our court system has developed in its DNA the habit of innumerable adjournments. And it seems that despite many chief justices have come out and said, please don't give more adjournments than 3. It doesn't work because it's become habit in the system. The example I would give you is that if you want to try and make Chandni Chowk the ideal of traffic and all that, it's going to be very difficult vis-a-vis creating a new part of Delhi. So you create something new, a new organization with different DNA. The fast track courts are actually sticking to the 3 adjournments rule, whereas the normal courts are not. Now, I was a bit surprised when you said that the ministry has statistics that the normal courts are functioning better than fast track courts. I'd like to understand that those details a bit more, because my preliminary investigation shows something quite different. And I'll address the young lady's question. That's because you're right, the data is not easily available, so it's hard to compare. I was giving 2 figures. One is researched statistics, that in a decade, they disposed 84% of the cases that came to them, okay? And I don't have the correct number for the normal courts, the normal district courts and the high courts. And I think that should be collectible. And my gut feel is that 84% is much higher than what the normal courts dispose in that same period of time. But we will need to compare that. Now, I was giving you an empirical example. Now, I'm aware of 4 to 6 cases in Odisha where within 6 months or so, cases were disposed of heinous crimes. I'm not aware of a single such case in Odisha in the normal courts which are disposed in less than 8, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Okay? So it's a dramatic example that, and I give you the example in my constituency, there was a young boy who was murdered and the clamor was that a new fast track court has been set up in the district. Please ensure that this case goes there, doesn't go to the normal. It's empirical because I'm not aware of a normal court case where even for murder or rape, the decision happens in less than 3, 7, 10 years. So it's just to give you a dramatic thing. Now, I have spent some time in subordinate courts and I have spent some time in fast track courts. There's a world of difference because the ratios are different. The number of judges, the number of staff, the number of computers, the number of cases are different. So it's a world of difference. It functions differently. The problem is we are calling it fast track courts. They're not fast track. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. We should call them normal track courts rather than having everybody stuck in the slow lane.
Good one. Yeah, behind you, yeah. We'll have, after this, we'll have 3 more because I've noticed 3 hands and that is where we end.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. I am Santosh from National Social Watch. I have majorly 2 questions. One is that this problem of transparency. If anybody would like to know about that, how far this fast-track court cases are running in every state or areas, and if you want to know about any details about those cases, there is no data available. Unlike the Supreme Court or High Court, the data or information about those cases are available. And as Ms. Pandaji has mentioned in his that 84% of cases has been resolved without. In our research, what we have found that, as Manish has mentioned in his finding that Delhi, Haryana and Punjab, this pendency is quite higher in fast-track court in compared to normal courts. So in same thing, National Social Watch has also found in its research that this fast-track court functioning is not well in compared to this ordinary courts or the trial courts also. So thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, my name is Klaus Voll. I have a question to Mr. Panda and perhaps to you also. In case you succeed in your efforts, which effects do you think it will have on political parties, and where do you see the major structural causes that parties field such candidates, and in far higher numbers if I read in the papers in states? Late Minister Kumaramangalam once said, going back historically, that Sanjay Gandhi made Gundas socially acceptable in the Congress. So what does it say about the state of affairs, of internal affairs of political parties?
Should we answer this? Okay. I expect the following effect to happen. Now it is law that convicted MPs and MLAs will get disqualified. The political effort to push back has been repealed. It was part of the effort of some people inside Parliament and a lot of people outside Parliament. But still, there is the factoring that goes into political calculations that we can put up a tainted candidate because it's unlikely her case or his case will be decided in the next 5 years. And if a tainted candidate is the best likely person to win, we should put that person up because it's not going to come up in 5 years, so he will not get disqualified. Now, if certainty comes into the system that yes, adjudication will take place in 12 months, then that person is no longer the best candidate because you could, and particularly for a government which is not expecting a huge majority, suppose they're expecting a thin majority, then the party gets very, very alert. So this certainty and predictability and time frame is crucial. So that's what I expect. It will help our moral decision making to know that an outcome is going to happen in the next 6 months. And I just want to say one more thing. I think the gentleman there was talking about, the investigation has to work properly, everything else has to work properly. I did agree. I said that let's not see fast-track courts as in isolation, because they will also stumble if we just do fast-track courts and stop there. It will not work. All I'm saying is, let's not try to say that we should do everything or nothing. We should do things step by step. Fast-track courts will function and are functioning, in my experience, better than normal courts, but they will also, to really perform to their full optimum potential, police reform has to happen. Certain other things need to happen. All I'm saying is, let's not make one hostage to the other.
Yes. Yes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Kriti and I'm a policy professional. I might be being very simplistic or naive in my question, but the way I look at it, to create fast-track courts, we're looking at human capital and we're looking at funding. Primarily these 2 things to create these courts, right? Why is it so difficult if we actually have these resources or the potential to gain these resources? Why is it difficult to just pump these resources in an already existing system, which we call our judicial system? If I had to give you a corollary, if we have an appliance that is not working perfectly in our houses and we are a medium level income group, a family of a medium level income group, we don't go out and throw that air conditioner or fridge into the dustbin and get a new air conditioner in its place. We repair the air conditioner that we already have because there's already a certain amount of capital attached to it. So my question is, again, like I said, might be very simplistic, but why is it difficult to channel these very resources into an existing system and make that better rather than semanticize a new system and create a new infrastructure altogether, which definitely has a much larger amount of resources which will be required to be pumped into it?
Quick answer. For the exact same reason that it is easier to create a new colony with better roads and better traffic than to do it in Chandni Chowk, because you have legacy issues. Now, I mentioned that every Chief Justice keeps on saying, please expedite, don't give more than 3 adjournments, but the DNA of the system, you know, these organizations, our judicial system has developed certain habits. Many of them are good habits, some of them are not so good habits. So, let us not conflate the two issues together. One is, even if we did have all the resources, even if we had the money, even if we had the human capital, you have legacy issues that you have to deal with. Just by filling those posts, they will improve, but they will not improve as much as if you have a separate new system. Ideally, ultimately, there should be a convergence of both, and you should keep improving both so that we reach everybody, like Mr. Chibber is asking for. The second issue is, you do have actually more flexibility. I gave you examples that you can take a retired judge on a 2-year commission for a fast track court. You can't in High Court. There are legal barriers to that. You have to make constitutional changes to do that. You can take a retired IS officer. You can take a retired state administrative officer who are actually trained in judicial matters. And the final issue about human capital is a supply-demand issue. You're right, many of the new well-qualified lawyers are going into corporate life because, you know, the economy is growing, corporations and corporate legal services are growing, but that means that we just need to create more. And the more supply that we create, whether it is doctors, whether it is nurses, whether it is lawyers, the more we will be able to fill the gap in human capital that we are talking about. So we should not see this as a zero-sum game, that it's going to be impossible to fill these positions. We have to pay well. We have to look at creative solutions like retired people and all that.
Yeah, if I can also just...
one thing, I would... I do not think your question is simplistic or naive. It's a very good comment. Because I had earlier mentioned that if you look at what happened in 1950, what was the number of Supreme Court judges? We know that our population has gone up 3.5 times. Whether that number has gone up or not, why should this not be linked to the population? And automatically those jobs should be created. It's a very commonsensical suggestion, and I think it needs to be attempted. And this is, but things have gone differently. Number one, the jobs have not been increased. Secondly, there are lots of fast track mechanism was separately created. What is CAT? CAT is all civil service dispute will go, instead of going to judiciary, no. Then consumer fora, they're all fast track courts taken out of the judiciary to relieve the pressure on the court. And similarly, TRI or Electricity Regulatory Commission, all these were fora, they're all fast track courts. They're created to take the load off, but obviously somewhere we have forgotten the ideal proportion which has got disturbed.
Exactly, but then isn't this sort of giving us a past example that fast track courts haven't worked in India? We've created so many structures, so many tribunals, consumer fora, discussion groups, etc., everything,
yes.
And it hasn't worked in India.
And
yet we want to start exactly the same system all over again.
Yeah, no. It can. This question is not so simplistic.
Let's not conflate all the commissions and all the other things with the specific fast track courts for criminal cases that have, in fact, in my opinion, done well.
But if I can add to that.
Let me complete this thing. You know, the fact that these, in spite of these courts, the things are bad. Suppose these courts were not there, these fast track, then things would have been even worse. At least they, given some relief, but it is only some relief. I have got a notice from the organizers, the hall has to be vacated. The last question. Yeah, there's somebody at the back. Sorry, the young lady there.
Let us take a hypothetical situation in which all the current obstacles we face, the lack of human capital and the lack of funds and such, were resolved, and political will was there to set up the fast track court system within a couple of days, within a month, within 6 months, within a year. However, if it does happen that fast, there is going to be some loss in quality, and that's unavoidable, right? To some level. Let us say we get unqualified candidates within certain posts. Let us say, in some cases, even the retired people are not free from their own biases, or the elected officials they have to deal with are not free from prejudice. If the fast-track courts do stumble, where is the self-regulation? Does that come from the judicial system itself, or will we have to bring in political interference to again correct the system? That's something I want an opinion on.
Yeah, that's why you have the appeal system. The final court of appeal is the Supreme Court. So if you are not satisfied with the judgment of the fast track court or any other court, you can always appeal. So the system has inbuilt safeguards, and you can those safeguards, they take care of your concerns.
Also, maybe one could be that the level of appeal can be reduced.
Yeah, that was,
why should everything go
initially, when the tribunals were being created, the thought was that, not every decision, one reason why these tribunals are not delivering is because every decision of theirs is still challengeable to the next higher court, which is the High Court in most cases. Normally what should have happened is that since these tribunals are being manned by retired High Court judges, appeal, if any, should have gone to the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, that is not happening. Their decisions are challenged in High Court. Then High Court, from there they go on to the Supreme Court. So you have created one more level.
Let me answer, two quick answers, then we'll end. You can stretch an argument to theoretical extremes, but we must also find a sweet spot of reasonable pragmatism. So you said, yes, if in a short time we try to do everything, you will compromise quality. Define the time. Suppose the stipulation says that in 24 hours you will have to appoint all these thousands of judges. Yes, clearly you will have a terrible system. That's a theoretical extreme. But if you stipulate that we do this in, say, 3 years' time, or we do it in 5 years' time, and you do address some of the key issues, salary levels, to attract some of the better young graduates. If you have a mindset that retired judges will have bias, well, just 2 months before, they would have had the same bias in the court system. So let's not stretch the argument to theoretical extremes. And you asked a second question, which was...
Ladies and gentlemen, it was a very animated discussion, very interesting, good topic. And I think we come to the conclusion that we can solve the problem. And our unanimous decision is we delegate it to the Prime Minister. Thank you.